I've been playing Rust for about 5 years, going on 6 years. I've been hosting Rust servers for about 4 years, going on 5 years. But by no stretch of the imagination does that mean that I know everything that there is to know about this industry. So when I get an opportunity to learn something, I take it. So if you've been following along in my history of videos, you know that something recently came up that I didn't know the answer to. But I did make the promise that I would find the answer and I would show you guys how to do it. So a little bit of a backstory. If you've ever came across a YouTuber by the name of Kimono, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You just might not actually know what you're seeing. So what Kimono does is he exposes cheaters and hackers on his server. He messes around with them a little bit. He might destroy their base or whatever, but he uses a tool that's actually built into Rust for us admins to use all the time. Some of you may know that feature is already there. Some of you may not know how he utilizes this tool. And that tool is the built-in admin layers. So if you don't know what I'm talking about as far as admin layers goes, I'm going to show you that, but I'm going to show you how you can bind these things to keys so that you can quickly flip on the different layers. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about in just a minute. Hey guys, welcome back to Rust Admin Academy, where I teach you guys the very best tips and tricks to owning and operating a successful Rust server. On this channel, I do a lot of plugin reviews and tutorials to hopefully teach you guys some of the ins and the outs and maybe show you some of the pitfalls that you might run into as you're setting up your servers. Today, we're actually not even talking about a plugin. Like I said in the intro, this is a feature that's actually built right into the game that all of us can use, even if you're on vanilla and you're not using Oxide. So the feature that I'm talking about is admin layers, and anyone that has moderator ID or owner ID will have access to these features. So to get there, you just go to your F1 menu, and then on the very far right hand side there, you'll see this tools button. Now, if nobody's ever been in here before, which a lot of you may not, because let's face it, we basically use this menu for spawning items in, and that's all we use. But if you've never been in here before, these are some very powerful tools. It just gives you a couple of different options that you can either toggle on or toggle off. So by default, everything is obviously turned on because you want full visibility. If we start ticking some of these off though, you can see that it basically makes your entire map disappear. So this is literally what my island looks like with all of my admin layers turned off. So let's start turning some of them back on. So if we turn on Clutter, this is what the island looks like with just Clutter turned on. If we add the water back in, here's what it looks like if we add the world. Now you can see all of the terrain is missing, but you can see that a lot of the world features have been restored. If we turn on the trees, of course, you'll see all of your trees come back. If we click on terrain, there it adds the ground back so we can see our terrain again. We also have Ragdoll, deployables, default. So default is like the sky you can see. So this is what my sky looks like with default turned off. That's what my sky looks like with default turned back on. So basically what admin layers does is it turns off the different visibilities of the different layers that are built into your game. So here we are at the train yard. If I just toggle off a couple of those layers, this is now what our train yard looks like with a couple of those layers turned off. So as you can see, if you're an admin and you're chasing down a hacker or a cheater or somebody that you suspect is violating some of the rules on your server, you can turn some of these layers off in order to see that player quicker, faster, easier, which makes it super helpful if you need to watch them for a couple minutes to see if they're actually breaking rules or cheating or hacking. So that's the basic rundown of admin layers, but that's not the coolest part of what we can do with these. So like I said in the intro, if you've ever watched Kimono's channel before, you'll notice that he flips his layers on and off very quickly. Well, obviously he's bound a couple of commands to a keybind, and it was that keybind that was actually screwing me over so that I couldn't figure out how to do this. I didn't know what the actual console command was that was triggering those layers on and off. Well, finally I found it. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do today. Bind these commands to a key so you can just quickly toggle them on and off like this. All I'm doing is pressing a single button on my keyboard and it's knocking out the layers that I don't want to see. So the first thing that you want to do is to pick which key you actually want to bind this command to, or if you have a multitude of different commands that you want to do, that's fine too. You can put as many different commands on as many different keys as you want, really. You just have to find one that you're not currently using right now. So if we go into our F1 console, I'm going to type bind 8. 8 just happens to be a key that I'm not using. And I'm going to make it so that it removes the layer called trees. So bind 8 layer.toggle space tree. So if we get rid of F1 console, now when I hit 8, it gets rid of the tree layer. But what if we wanted to add more commands to the same key? Well, that's fine. We can do that too. Let's go back into our F1 console. Let's hit up on the arrow key to bring up the previous command that we just used. We're going to add a semicolon at the end of the command that we already have. And then we're going to go ahead and add the next one. So layer.toggle, and we can do world. Get rid of our F1 console. Now when we hit 8, It gets rid of our world items as well. So there's these railroad tracks right here that disappeared. That's part of the world layer. There's some rock formations off in the distance that disappear. So I'm not going to assume how Kimono actually has his keybind set up. This is just the way that I found to do it. So I'm going to show you kind of what I figure he's using on his keybind in order to expose the hackers and cheaters that he might come across on his server. So here I've set up just a very simple base. I've finished my keybind so that it removes all of the layers that I think that I would want to have as an admin. And I'll show you guys that here in a second. So now when I hit my hotkey, which in my case is just the number 8, but it can be whatever it is that you want it to be. So when I hit my hotkey, it removes all construction, it removes all world items, it leaves the terrain, it removes the trees, and if there were a player inside this base right now, we would be able to see him moving around and see what he's doing. Here we are on the outside of the base, so if we were watching him and he were sighting us or something like that through the walls, we would have a pretty good idea that that player was cheating. Anyway, so that right there is exactly what the command looks like in order to bind the number 8 to toggle all of those different layers off. I'll put this exact combination of layers that can be turned off in the video description down below. You of course can change these to whatever works better for you. Obviously you just need to use the list right here that's in the default layers list. Just one of the tips that I have for you is when you're writing them out, you actually have to capitalize exactly as they are written on this list that you see right here. So construction is written with a capital C, the rest of it is lowercase. You have to make sure you follow that same capitalization, otherwise it's not going to work. Actually, now that I've looked at this for a couple minutes, I've actually added one more layer that gets removed on my hotkey, and that is terrain. If my memory serves me correctly, he's quite often under the map watching players inside their bases and stuff like that. Actually, no, that doesn't make sense. It's not necessary to remove the terrain because as soon as you go under the map, it automatically removes the terrain layer anyways for you. So forget what I just said there. I am going to put that in on the video description, but you don't necessarily have to have the terrain removed. As you can see, it definitely makes your map look a little bit strange. I mean, it would still function the same way. It would still give you the same abilities where if you were looking for somebody, it would definitely make it a lot easier to find them. Anyway, so that's how you bind admin layers to different keys. Make sure you check in the video description down below. I'm going to put the actual commands that I've now used in there. So if you guys want to, you can just copy and paste it directly into your F1 console and you're going to have the exact same abilities that I have. Just remember that if you don't want to use the 8 key on your keyboard, you'll have to select a different key that you do want to use. Huge shout out goes to my patrons. I super appreciate your guys' support. I thank you so much. I super appreciate everything you guys do for my channel. If you guys would like to help support the channel, make sure you check me out at patreon.com/srtbull. Link right there, link right there. I know this is a super short video, but I did tell you guys that I was going to find the solution for this problem. I found it and I had to make sure that I got this information out to you guys, and I hope you guys can make use of this. I know I use admin layers all the time when I'm trying to bust people, and now that I can bind it to a key, it's going to make that even easier for me. Alright, that's it for me. I put out a brand new video every Friday at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So until then, I hope you guys are staying safe and taking care of each other. I'll see you guys next Friday.